Sunny skies, open beaches, and a number of tourist attractions are the right ingredients to attract people from all over the world to visit Kwa Zulu-Natal. But what is needed to attract investors globally and locally? On the 12th of September, the province hosted and launched the Durban Aerotropolis plans at the Dube Trade Port area, mere meters away from King Shaka International Airport. The launch was the start of a 3-day investment drive to promote and attract investors to the province. After welcoming the guests at the launch, Dube Trade Port CEO Hamish Erskine handed proceedings over to Mayor of eThekwini, Councillor Mxolisi Kaunda.
As the eThekwini municipality, we are indeed delighted to host this 3-day investment conference, which commences with the unveiling of the Aerotropolis and Anthropolis Institute of Africa. We would like to thank the provincial government for this groundbreaking initiative, which gives practical meaning to our commitment to expand infrastructure investment to address the triple challenge of poverty, unemployment, and inequalities. Ladies and gentlemen, the Dube Trade Port Precinct, where we are unveiling this Aerotropolis and the Aerotropolis Institute of Africa, is strategically located 30 kilometers north of the Durban city center. This 3,000-hectare development is home to the state-of-the-art King Shaka International Airport and is ideally positioned 30 minutes from the Africa's busiest cargo port, Durban Harbour, and 90 minutes from the Richards Bay Harbour. As the city of Durban, we have identified the Dube Trade Port as one of the key catalytic projects in the city, especially in driving the economic development in the northern part of our city. We therefore view this development as a catalytic due to the scale of the planned development of various Dube Trade Port precincts, the estimated investment value, potential annual rates income of 180 million post-full development, as well as the anticipated job creation and opportunities to be created here. Therefore, we are making a call that all hands must be on deck to build this economy, not for ourselves, but for children and the future generations, so that they can live a better life in a society whose wealth is shared equitably. With these few words, let me welcome you all to this beautiful city.
This welcoming address was soon followed by the vision of Durban Aerotropolis, and who better to delve into this vision than the MEC for Economic Development, Tourism and Environmental Affairs for KwaZulu-Natal, Ms. Nomusa Dube-Ncube.
We will also highlight around the Dube Trade Port the fact that more than 43,000 tons of international cargo have passed through the Dube Trade Port terminal between April 2015 to December 2018. Importantly, one of the key strategic reasons for the relocation of this airport was to establish an integrated multimodal logistics platform that would link the national roads and the rail systems to the seaports of Durban and the Richards Bay, with an added advantage and a value for air infrastructure to accommodate intercontinental wide-body aircraft. The wider context and the long-term strategic objective of the Dube Trade Port project was the establishment of the Aerotropolis in the north of Durban, stretching from Umhlanga to Ballito. Critically, the basis of the decision to relocate the airport was a research which revealed that the airport had a potential to shape business location and urban development to the 21st century, just as highways with the 20th century.
The cutting of the ribbon revealed the model plan of the Durban Aerotropolis, which consists of 32,000 hectares of total land, 42 million square meters of total development, 750,000 jobs, 1.5 million residents, and 10,000 hectares of green space. This model also incorporated augmented reality to visualize what the potentials are. But what's the significance of this special economic zone?
The Dube trade port and the Durban as a whole is growing. It's a very strategic area and a gateway to Africa. It is the Durban Eretropolis that we are launching. It's going to be housing various industries, industrialization, manufacturing, tourism, as well as agro-processing. So investment is important here. And that's why tomorrow we are starting the Kwa Zulu-Natal Investment Conference. The investment conference is where we display bankable projects which are ready for investors. And some of the projects will find that they will need investors, but some are driven by government itself. So this is a very important platform, but it will then move toward the National Investment Conference to be hosted by the President late this year.
Today is incredibly important for us as Dube Trade Port Special Economic Zone because the development of the Durban Eretropolis master plan, which we did together with our provincial partners, has been long in the making. It's taken us 7 years to come to what we're launching today. What essentially it is, it's a nodal development that spans 32,000 hectares of land, north to south. If you want to imagine quite appropriately, we're looking at beginning from Shaka's Rock right up until the city. And it covers those many hectares of lands and with so many other job opportunities as part and parcel of the master plan. So we're incredibly excited that it's finally come to this, and today just lifts the lid and we're taking off.
As the Durban Chamber of Commerce and Industry, we see this launch today, as well as the event tomorrow, as very critical and crucial to ensure that we start attracting more investments into our province. So this alone, this Eretropolis launch today, it really gives us quite a lot of exciting ways and means to know that there's things that we can go out there and talk to investors about to come into our city. And whether you're exporting or importing, it's not just at the ports, but also through the airports where you can actually move your goods and services.
It's an important day for Durban and the province of Kwa Zulu-Natal. And so it's been our pleasure as Invest Durban, part of eThekwini Metro, to be on the core organising team of tomorrow's Investment Summit and today's launch here at the SEZ in the Eretropolis. So we've been assisting and partnering with the provincial government to put the city's catalytic projects into the agenda and to put some of the city's key experts into some of the panels, and then also work on the logistical elements and inviting our key business leaders and international foreign delegates, many are in fact flying in for the event.
Dube Trade Port is not the only special economic zone that Kwa Zulu-Natal has to offer.
The Dube Trade Port Special Economic Zone is one of two that the province of Kwa Zulu-Natal actually has. It's ourselves, and then it's Richards Bay, I to Z. Both these have got different focus in terms of the development areas as gazetted in their operations to, license to operate that they get given by government. In our case, we're a greenfield site that was launched, I think, about 9 years ago, with the sole intent of focusing on key industries, and these cover logistics in terms of aviation, and also having manufacturing in the techno space, light and heavy, medium heavy industries, and of course our iconic agri-zone. So that's been our focus all along. So the fact that we're in an SEZ that is licensed to offer business operations that further the aims of aviation and aeronautical as a business proposition, it bodes well for us being this nerve center, working together with the King Shaka International Airport and giving birth to the larger Durban Eretropolis.
We went to visit one of these key industries. Only a few meters away from the launch area lay the Dube Agri Zone. Knox Nklumalo, CEO of McFair Holdings, which is the second black-owned agribusiness to take up space within the Dube Agri Zone precinct, took us on a tour of their daily operations. Speaking to CNBC Africa, Nxumalo commented on the relationship between McPhair Holdings and Dube Tradeport SEZ.
So Dube Tradeport focuses on economic development. So they develop a range of infrastructure that impacts the development of our economy in our KZN area. And essentially, we are the tenants in this infrastructure that they've developed, and they are landlords. So we've got great support in terms of the backup services that come along with this that enables us to do what we do on a daily basis within our agriculture operations. We add to the agricultural sector and the output that goes on, year on year. We then also add in terms of job creation. We currently employ about 42 employees. A great team of experienced individuals that add value to the operations that we conduct in this area. Dube AgriZone and Dube Tradeport is all about the next level. If you're talking fourth industrial revolution, it's already been here. We use computerized systems to ensure that we manage and monitor our operations, to plan ahead and put strategies in place, things that we would have done manually outside and with limited controls. Here we have the ability to control each and every single aspect of what we do. So this is the future of farming, and it's important that as farmers we continuously improve how we farm and do our business as well.
McPhair Holdings is just one of many businesses operating from this SEZ. So what other developments has been offered from here?
Up to date, since inception, which is 2010, which is 9 years ago, we have created over 21,000 jobs in the SEZ. And with the new pipeline that we have in the MTF of 8.5 billion rands, we obviously want to not just double but triple that kind of number. But the beauty of the Durban Aerotropolis now setting sail today, it means that you just gets into the hundreds of job opportunities if you look at the phased development over a period of 50 years. Up until 2053, we anticipate that the Durban Aerotropolis itself would have reached a mark of 750,000 job opportunities. So that's huge, that's massive. And so we see the work that we've done to date as the necessary spare of creating that kind of opportunity, and knowing that we are not really thumb-sucking. You know the numbers and you know how we arrive at them, and all you have to do is to create this enabling environment for us to achieve those socio-economic objectives that we seek to achieve.
The billions that Invest Durban we've been involved in is 4.5 billion rand worth of FDI as at our last financial year end. 7.5 billion with the existing foreign investors that are expanding in these regions, one of which is one of the world's largest manufacturers of smart meters who've relocated and expanded here into the Dube Tradeport. And so the pipeline of investment here at the SEZ, as well as all across the greater metropolitan region of Durban, is in fact in excess of $50 billion across the metropolitan city, all in varying stages. Some you can go and see the factory now, some are still in concept stage.
It is really a drastic and a radical intervention into the economy, and it's very exciting. You know, it's you don't very often create a city. So, of course, this will also grow, but the vision is let's create an aerotropolis. And it's all centered around the airport, and it is all centered around in between two harbors. So it's a very viable thing. It's a very, very viable thing. And the jobs will come. Not immediate jobs, we talk about immediate jobs, but we also talk about the jobs downstream. Because as you build a hotel, let's just use that as a simple example. Somebody is making the bricks, somebody is supplying the cement, somebody is, quite apart from the actual people who will be building the hotel. Somebody is providing the glass for the windows and the doors and so on. So if you look at the entire total employment, direct and also downstream, it is massive. But it'll unfold over a number of years.
much as the country hosts investment drives, one cannot stay clear from the country's social concerns, making headlines weeks prior to this launch. Will these challenges hinder investors' decisions? And what is the province doing to assure investor confidence?
We want to be clear to Africa. We're part of Africa. We want to trade with Africa. We're inviting Africans, governments in Africa, but also the business community of Africa. This is Africa. We're open for trade. We're open for business operations with the whole of Africa.
I think we need to be honest and say this is Africa. Africa has always had its ups and downs, but what Africa still does have is frontiers of opportunity. And so it takes people with courage to come and explore those frontiers of opportunity. It takes people who take a bit more of a medium-term strategic view and look over the top of some of these challenges that pop up across our city and our continent periodically, and come to access the infrastructure, the people, the markets, and the whole continent in a more strategic view, because this is where the growth rates are in double digits, like you won't find in other places around the world.
But you can never, in the greater scheme of things, leave communities out of it. You know, so it is that sort of triangle. Like somebody once said, it's like a pot, our traditional three-legged pot. One leg is government, one leg is business, and the third leg is our communities, our people. And I think because we're setting out to do it in that way, not just government, not just business, not just people on their own, all of us together, that is the secret of our success. Otherwise, it will not fly.
With all this said and done, what makes Dube Trade Port unique from other SEZs?
It's always a trick question to answer without trying to be competitive, because I mean there's no need to be competitive. Each SEZ has got its design and unique value proposition. Ours has always been that of all the SEZs, we're the only one that's in Aerotropolis, number one, but we're also the only one that has a state-of-the-art agri-zone as we do. And so we are happy with what the designated sectors have been for us, and we look forward to the pharmaceutical sector taking off, because that's going to be a serious game changer, not only for the province but for the country as a whole. Gone are those days where South Africa is going to be importing quite a lot of its medicinal needs, and most of the pills and medication and all those kinds of things will be manufactured right here and right now. And so there's no other SEZ that can boast just those three specific sectoral growths. And we're really, really, really happy to have been designated in that way.
Program Director, this evening is for celebrating the entrepreneurs, it's for celebrating the business.
Kwa Zulu-Natal province, known as the second largest economic contributor to South Africa's economy, hosted an international investment conference, a 3-day event that started with a launch at the Dube Trade Port offices on the 12th of September. The day may have come to an end, but the night was just beginning as the province hosted an Investors Award evening, a celebration to those investors who worked tirelessly to contribute to the province's growth. The event started with an opening ceremony and then moved swiftly along to MEC Dube-Ncube speaking about the SEZs.
We also wish to congratulate Richards Bay and Umhlatuze local municipality for working together with us to make it possible for this investment, which will benefit local communities in terms of employment. And in addition, as KZN government would like to thank DTI for facilitating this investment and this visit that our business people and our visitors we're having here today. When we started this term of office, we undertook to double our efforts to ensure that over the next 5 years, we create more than 30,000 jobs through targeted foreign direct investments. In addition, we set an ambitious target of creating more than 10,000 jobs through intensive export promotion. The Aerotropolis Investment Conference, therefore, forms part of our effort that is aimed at attracting investors into this province. And I don't want to dwell more on the Aerotropolis, as the Deputy Minister will elaborate more on this matter. And I wish to reiterate Professor Gassa's words this afternoon. And we wish to thank Professor Gassa, your leadership, as well as the leadership of our CEO, Mr. Hamish, for what you've done at the Dube Trade Port. Indeed, we are proud of the work that we have done for our country and for our people. And when you ask, what does it take to invest in South Africa? We take another document and we put on the table. And he says, there is no one document that you can have that gives you everything that you need to know, that you need to do if you want to invest in South Africa. And I think that's one challenge that we have, that indeed we do have a lot of incentive, we do have a lot of strategies, we do have the roadmap, but we need to be able to consolidate this information to a one-stop shop, to a one-stop message that is able to be as quick, as fast as Mzamo was saying. That does not give you trauma when you want to invest, because investment, it's about money, it's about saving, it's about be able to see whether your money is worth being invested in that particular area. So our Dube Trade Ports and the Richards Bay IDZ offers prospective investors a wide range of supports, services such as the company registration tax, tax clearances, visa application, and all business registration requirements. I must also hasten to point out that we're working towards strengthening relations with the national departments that are involved in the facility to ensure that we speed up the efficiency in assisting business and potential investors with visas, and as well as information of doing business in our country.
Speaking on behalf of the eThekwini municipality, Councillor Weziwe Tuzi commented on the entrepreneurial contribution to the province.
As eThekwini municipality, we fully understand the important role played by the business sector in growing the economy, not only for the province, but the country as a whole. We are committed to assisting business because they help us create job opportunities and, as a ripple effect, alleviate poverty and inequality. Poverty alleviation is one of our key strategic focus areas as directed by the National Development Plan. The NDP calls for united action by all South Africans to eradicate poverty, create full employment, and reduce inequality as critical building blocks towards a truly united, non-racial, non-sexist, democratic, and prosperous society. Ladies and gentlemen, with the biggest port in Africa and a buzzing Dube trade port, Durban is indeed the gateway to the country's economic hub.
Deputy Minister for Trade and Industry in South Africa, Ms. Nomalongelo Gina, did expand on Durban Aerotropolis, but added some future prospects as well.
Looking at the infrastructure, the road, the railway, and so forth, the ports in KZN, we are excited when we look at the African Continental Free Trade Area that has just been signed by the countries in the continent and just been ratified by the 27 countries. We are saying, KZN, you have put yourself in you are in a very strategic way of making sure that you connect the continent when it comes to the investments and so forth. But what we are saying, yes, we are very threatened about what is happening around when it comes to the issues of xenophobic attacks and so forth. But we are saying in no way that is going to disrupt us from making sure that we benefit from the free trade area that has just been signed, to make sure that when it comes to the connection of the continent, the issues of investments, we want to export, we want to see them importing. And the KZN, I can assure you, we are in a very strategic way of doing that. Looking at the road infrastructure going up to Mozambique and so forth, we are proud and we are confident into saying KZN is going to make use of that. We are going to benefiting from the free trade area that has been signed with the efforts and all the strides that KZN has come up with.
Other speakers also joined in on the evening to speak about other areas of interest which could help entrepreneurs with their journey. One of such speakers was the Chief Marketing Officer from Google SA. So what investments are Google SA looking at?
Google has actually, if you think of Google's mission is to organize the world's information, in this case organize Africa's information, make it universally accessible to everyone and make it helpful. Already that's kind of the mission itself tells you that our interest is that our mission is incomplete without Africa. So therefore we've made several announcements actually that all about making sure that we make Google and technology helpful in Africa. For example, we made a heavy investments on digital skills where we committed that we will train over 10 million African kids, entrepreneurs, small, medium businesses in digital skills and get them ready. The second one, we made commitments on things like computer science first for kids, and where we train kids on coding, computer science, and you make it fun so that kids can appreciate computer science. And we even had like another initiative on Google's tech startups, where we have tech startups where we give them funding plus major support to help those tech startups so that we can build the next big Google from Africa to the world. So there are many initiatives that we're putting in place that we are genuinely serious about making technology helpful and making Google helpful in Africa.
After dinner, the evening proceeded with the awards, with categories ranging from Black Industrialist to Job Creator Award to the most impactful investment in the KZN province, and many more. CNBC Africa spoke to some of the winners about what they did to win these achievements and what value these awards have for them.
Well, it means that we've made two big investments in the factory in Ladysmith. As Dunlop South Africa, we manufacture Dunlop Falcon Sumitomo brand tires. We've made the first investment in 2013, 2014, the second one in 2016, both around R1 billion each.
I think in the areas that we concentrate in Kwa Zulu-Natal being enterprise development and the container program, the Dunlop container program that we've got, I think we've made a significant impact in Kwa Zulu-Natal and across the country. And it's one of our passion in Kwa Zulu-Natal, and especially being a Kwa Zulu-Natal based company.
It opens the door more and encourages more black industrialists to get involved and participate in the economy. But this is not only for me as well, it's also for my 500 plus staff to celebrate this award because they've worked hard for it.
I do plastic recycling, and it's in my intention to further, I've had a lot of experience in other aspects of recycling, which I'd like to introduce into South Africa. It's currently not operational in South Africa, like diaper recycling. It hasn't been introduced in South Africa, but I have the experience. And I'd also like to move on to the manufacturing from the recycling into manufacturing finished goods. Well, for me, this accomplishment is not just for myself, but it's for all the women, 80% of the women that work with me in my company. This award is basically for all of us.
I think for us, programs or projects like the Aerotropolis, like your RASAT program, which is the program of the provincial government, they need to be supported. If the government support those projects, we see that the private sector then they hop on board. They can see that the government is serious about creating jobs, but also ensuring that there's business, there's stability within the local municipality. We know that we come from Ilembe, one of our local municipalities, Mandeni. There is one of the biggest industrial estate, which is Isitebe. But the unrest that's happening there, sometimes they hamper jobs because businesses tends to go away from that area. So the political stability is key in job creation in this province.
The focus on Africa is because Africa is one of the fastest growing markets globally and the most untapped of the emerging markets. So there's a major focus. All of the BRICS countries are very focused on Africa, very focused on South Africa. They see the opportunities and they want to partner with us for mutual benefit to grow our respective economies.
Kwa Zulu-Natal hosted an International Investment Conference Summit on the 12th and 13th of September. The first day started with the launch of the Durban Aerotropolis at the Dube Trade Port and ended with the KZN Investment Awards. Day 2 consisted of panel discussions with experts from across the globe. After opening speeches and welcoming of guests, the first panel discussion set the tone with an international outlook on regional investment attraction.
The fastest growing incoming investment is coming from the Asia region. We spoke about the challenges that we experience in the global economy, very depressed global economy. But if you look at the growth of Asia and Africa, it's still very vibrant. Asia is growing at a very significant rate, 6-7% growth. And that has been a source of strength of the global economy. And how do we tap into the opportunities that exist within the BRICS countries and within this region that is the fastest growing economically? Yes, we have very vibrant interaction with all of these countries, very strong bilateral relations. But I believe that we are not doing enough to tap the absolute potential that exists within the region, within BRICS countries. We have good relations with them politically. And we as government, we create an enabling environment for the private sector to leverage the opportunities that are there. For expanding our markets, and these are massive markets that you are looking at. 40% of the global population is contained within the BRICS community. And these are vibrant, fast emerging, fast growing markets. Are we doing enough to get our products into these markets? I believe we can do much more. And this investment summit perhaps is an important pointer in the direction of how we can have a more focused approach, especially in this region. Attracting more foreign direct investment. The President's Investment Summit that was launched last year will have the second edition this year, and I believe this initiative supports and complements that initiative. And as a province, I think you must be congratulated for also taking the initiative to see what can be done at the provincial level. You need to build relationship at the personal level. When you pledge an investment of so many $1 billion, you need to follow that up at the personal level. Much more work needs to be done before that pledge actually materializes. And I believe that is the weakness of South Africa. We don't do enough in nurturing that relationship and reassuring them that we really treasure this partnership and we want to see your investment. We want to see you come and partner with South Africa for mutual benefit. And we need to understand and better interact with this region. The BRICS countries specifically has tremendous potential for us. Where will the BRICS be 10 years from now? Where was BRICS 10 years ago? We account for 23% of global GDP at the present time. But by 2030, 2040, BRICS is going to account for far more of the global GDP than the G7. It's going to surpass the G7 by estimates by 2030.
It's very easy, or it's much easier to get information on the macro investment climate of any country, such as South Africa, the size of the market, labor cost, land cost, and so on, political risk, the rules and regulations. But when you come to, there is a whole second level of consideration, that investors do as to, once the country is chosen, where they would invest. And I think it's here that there is a lot of lack, there is a lack of proper information. And that is one reason why you find that there is a virtuous, or maybe not so virtuous, depending on your point of view, circle of investment that tends to flow to certain areas. In South Africa, it's obviously in the Gauteng area. Therefore, I think these kind of conferences which create awareness, generate information, are very timely and important. And from the few visits that I have made to Durban, I think that the only thing you have to do is to entice investors to visit your beautiful province and rest your case. There are a number of Indian companies which have invested in Kwa Zulu-Natal. And sometimes I think, when I was also in this business of promoting in an earlier job, if there are 10 Indian companies which are working here, which are making profit and in the process generating growth, employment and demand, why can't there be 100? It's obvious that it's a place where you can invest and make money. And that's where I think more effort needs to be done, as Ambassador Sukhlal said. There's a large Indian community in this province. I hope that the members of this Indian community will also act as an economic bridge between India and South Africa, between companies in India and companies in South Africa. This will benefit both our countries, both our peoples. But having said that, I think that these would remain pious words unless we work much more to look at each other, not only from a business point of view, but influential people in our countries and influential stakeholders, whether they're students, whether media, civil society, parliamentarians. We now need to look much more at each other than towards. We have a lot of problems in common in India and South Africa. And there's a lot to be gained by a cross-fertilization of ideas between our young people. It's just that we automatically look towards Silicon Valley. But I'm sure that there could be many Silicon Valleys in South Africa and in India as well, which could benefit from this cooperation. As far as BRICS is concerned, we don't really have a concept of collective investment. But if matters go in the right direction, more and more companies from the BRICS countries grow in this province, in Durban, you could think of a BRICS cluster. And so companies which follow would be secure that all the groundwork had already been done and all they needed to do was to put in the money and bring in technology.
This city holds the BRICS Summit, and it's from here the BRICS Summit, the BRICS family gets stronger and stronger. So now we come here to think and to explore, to take advice from you and the people. How can we work together to make our people benefit more from the BRICS family or corporations? And this is why here I travel around the provinces and the city. I'm so impressed that the geographic location, in my view, is one of the best. Because you are face the ocean, and the industrial zone is already there, and the operation of the authority in the association or something, the government in the zone, they were very hard and to give us to ensure here is favorable for the investment. And so, I'm so happy they understand the job only comes from the investor and visitors, and this is why I'm happy you know the difference. Sometimes some people talking about when more Chinese investors come to this country or this continent, they will give us the new title of new colonialism. I don't like that because colonialism is quite different. They conquer the country by force, compel you to change, to compromise your sovereignty, to do business, to force you to do business. You change your politics, economic. That is colonialist. China will come here in your effort, within your framework. If you are ready, you are welcome. You welcome them, they will come here to join you in your effort to develop. But you know how to get the investor, FDI, visitors to come here to drive the economy, to create jobs, to get the city and promise prosperity, to benefit your people. So I'm so happy you give us a very strong message. At least we can send a message back to China. You are the government who know economic, who know how to develop the economy to benefit the people. So now in our views, this country have a lot of the strategic units. Especially three of them I'm so impressed. One is the resources, the advantage or strength, unit strength is resources. The natural resources, mineral resources, the agricultural resources, ocean resources, human resources are more enough. The second is location. Location is very important. This country is embraced by two oceans. And that is that we see this country not only as a main gate, but could be a production base to produce here and get ready to support the African industrialization, urbanization, and modernization. We encourage the Chinese investor to come here, not only to come here to meet your local demand, but we are ready to get ready together with you for the African industrialization and urbanization. And the third strength you have is the foundation and condition for development. This country, we have no doubt about that. You are the best in a continent. You are one of the best in an emerging market or in a developing country. So I think we are very confident, but business is business. When I talk to them, they have three concerns for the investment to come. Business. They are about to come, but they have their concern. I have to let you know, and I'm happy the Kwa Zulu-Natal government do so well to improve that, to meet the demand of the investor. First is the safety. Safety, their concern. And I'm proud the Consul General here, he told me, this from now under leadership of the Premier Zekalala. They are very targeted and they are very committed to themselves to make sure a safe environment for the investment or business. So, your Honorable MEC, as we discussed, you will get our full support to build a safe Kwa Zulu-Natal, or we can start it from Durban. I even shared the idea with the High Commissioner of India. We can work together with the Kwa Zulu-Natal or Durban Authority, together with India. Of course, we are open for American, the European Union. Let them come together. We are as an international partner. We come here the same for partnership instead of ownership. The second is the concern is the policy. This country, the policy is so good. It's not bad. You have a lot of favorable policy to attract investment here. But that's our concern. We need the law, the investment law, because the policy could be changed every year. You're free to give us a new policy, but it could be changed every year. But we need the investment law like China. We're a socialist country. American, Japan, European Union, they are the capitalists. They care about socialism. But why no one can stop them from coming to China? Because we have the investment law. Law is the national commitment. The government, the president is not free to change. So the law investment is a very key to ensure the investor here is safe for business for long term. And the third is the favorable environment like the visa, the government efficiency. So this Kwa Zulu-Natal, the government here, I'm so happy now they do a lot to improve their efficiency and offer the best service.
Several panels followed this discussion. We spoke to Dr. Anil Suklal on the side about the challenges facing us as a country and BRICS' outlook on these challenges.
It's a challenging global economic environment, and therefore the BRICS countries have pulled the resources together to address some of these challenges. We are due to have the summit in Brazil in November this year. And interestingly, one of the MOUs that we are currently negotiating, and hopefully it's going to be signed at the summit, is to bring our investment authorities together in a common MOU to see how we can cooperate in terms of investments amongst ourselves. And I think that MOU will set the groundwork in terms of deepening investment between BRICS countries. As I've indicated to you, the BRICS countries today account for some 23% of global GDP, and this is going to grow significantly over the next 10 years, even overtaking that of the G7. So the BRICS Business Council that was launched here in 2013 when South Africa hosted the fifth BRICS Summit was a very important development, because that council has become increasingly active. You have 9 working groups now under the BRICS Business Council covering all the key areas such as infrastructure, green energy, the health sector, the energy sector, and including regional aviation. So all of the key drivers of growth is part of the BRICS Business Council key focus in terms of how do we deepen economic interaction between the BRICS countries. And therefore you can see that our total trade with BRICS has grown significantly. It's just under 500 billion rands today. And it's going to continue to grow because of the fast growth rates of many of our BRICS countries, especially China and India. In this very depressed global economic environment, China and India still grows 6% plus. And that's a huge market also for us, as was pointed out by the Chinese ambassador, Ambassador Lin. You have over 400 million middle-class Chinese, equally large number of about 300 million in India. These are massive markets. If South Africa just tap into these markets more firmly, I believe it will open up further opportunities for us to grow our trade significantly within the BRICS countries.
Another topic that was brought forward was that of relationships between countries and investors. So how is Kwa Zulu-Natal taking on these relationships?
Follow-up for us as Kwa Zulu-Natal is critical. And typical example is the presidential conference last year, where lots of pledges were made. We followed up on a lot of those. We've landed one deal of one company that had already pledged at the presidential conference and did not have a venue. They did not have a facility. They did not have a location. We spoke to them from start to finish. Now, if you understand the investment life cycle, it doesn't happen within a year that quickly. So for us to be able to turn it around, now in October, the president will be coming to launch the project here in Kwa Zulu-Natal. To turn it around in 1 year, it gives you an indication of how Kwa Zulu-Natal is serious about landing these projects. There's a $100 million project that is coming and landing at Dube Trade Port. So you're correct, but for us as Kwa Zulu-Natal, we don't take it lightly.
As Ambassador Lin also pointed out, we are uniquely placed as South Africa, traversing both the Indian and Atlantic Ocean. KZN has 2 of the largest ports on the African continent, and it is uniquely placed. And I think this investment summit, bringing sharp focus on the potential that the KZN has, is perfectly timed, and it also supplements perfectly and complements President Ramaphosa's drive in terms of the International Investment Summit. So the province must be congratulated for taking this initiative, because it can't be left to the national government alone. I think the provincial government must also be key engines in terms of driving our investment drive. And this conference that the province has hosted fits perfectly into the grand vision, because we are perfectly placed to attract international investment. The opportunities are there. South Africa is looked upon very favorably. Despite the challenges we have, you have to look at the medium to long-term prospects of this country, and they all see the potential of South Africa.
Adjacent to the panel discussions was the exhibition from various sectors, showcasing their products and services. We took this opportunity to speak to some of these exhibitors about their offerings. One of them was Sunil Jugri, eThekwini country manager for Vodacom.
Basically, you can see a big fancy screen up here with a big
virtual reality demonstration that's actually going on. So what we're actually doing here is that we're actually simulating what a 5G network can actually do for industry and the world in general. We are basically showing that you can be in any part of the world controlling any other thing in an automated plant at a blink of an eye. You can see the latency showing up there is like order of 3 milliseconds, which is 1/10 the blink of the speed of a human eye. So we're simulating being in one country, the robots and the plant in another country, and operators working vice versa. Application goes to building, mining, it goes to surgery. It's just endless.
It's an innovation hub for Durban, where innovators based in Durban are able to come in, get their ideas heard and get their ideas supported.
So it's the high drop, it's the foot operated tab, it's our innovations. So we're just looking at saving water, optimizing hygiene, but using a different method, using your foot as opposed to sensors or either your hands. It's giving me the platform to access markets, for people to know about the products, to know about the company. So yeah, it's priceless really. You get to meet a lot of people who are adding value to the business, So yeah, it's priceless really.
We come through Harry Kuala because we are the one of the processing company within the Harry Kuala, and then our strategy is to expand within the KZN, and then so that they give us an opportunity to be here, because currently on the nutrition school food nutrition, we are currently supplying about 3 districts within the KZN. So it's an exposure for our company also to penetrate the side of the KZN, because we're in the board of KZN and the Eastern Cape.
I think the relationship with Vodacom and the KZN, departments, trade and industry, development, tourism, agriculture, stems from previously over 20 years. I think we've been heavily involved in what we call the deep rural projects. Deep rural projects is to bring telecoms and connectivity to communities far and deep in the Kwa Zulu-Natal area. We've pumped over the last 5 years, close to 450 million on the deep rural project. So our aim is to actually connect as many people in the province as possible. So the department and us have a very close working relationship in terms of where they want connectivity to be delivered. We've got a specific program, the Deep Rural Project, that targets these areas. We try to push up the penetration of smartphones in that area, general connectivity. I think the first part has been done in terms of mobile. The second part in terms of the fiber infrastructure is actually on the plan. Engagements are happening all the time in terms of where they're going to put infrastructure. We are actually part of the infrastructure team that goes in there. What can we do? So some social development initiatives on the go, our schools projects, our what is that called? The clinic projects, right? We kind of tailor and mirror where these guys actually want to go. We follow it through there. So it's a very tight relationship that we have.
After 2 long days, what were the key messages that can be highlighted?
The focus on Africa is because Africa is one of the fastest growing markets globally and the most untapped of the emerging markets. So there's a major focus. All of the BRICS countries are very focused on Africa, very focused on South Africa. They see the opportunities and they want to partner with us for mutual benefit to grow our respective economies.
We've just had a big session now on talking about BRICS and the ambassadors from the BRIC countries, where the ambassador of China was telling us that in one of their ports in China actually is mostly electronic. Are we ready for that? Are we ready for the digital economy and the smart cities concept? And our 50-year master plan specifically also looks at that.